A ripping sound of cloth reverberated within the first-class cabin, surpassing the jet engine's roar outside. Donovan Cole, a man whose mere signature influenced billions in the global market, was being dragged along the aisle as if he were a common offender. His suit jacket tore at the shoulder seam. "You are committing an error that will prove utterly ruinous for you," Donovan stated, his tone chillingly composed despite the commotion. Lydia, the flight attendant, scoffed, indicating the exit with a perfectly manicured finger. "The sole misstep, sir, was your belief that you were entitled to seat 1A. She was unaware that Donovan's phone was on the verge of permanently immobilizing her airline's entire fleet. The atmosphere within Vista Air Flight 404's cabin felt stagnant, carrying a subtle scent of rebrewed coffee and costly fragrance. Beyond the oval windows, the Los Angeles International Airport tarmac glistened beneath the midday sun. Yet, within the aircraft, the temperature was quickly falling. Donovan Cole straightened the cuffs of his custom-tailored navy suit, checking the Patek Philippe adorning his wrist. He was a meticulous individual. He disliked postponements and absolutely detested superfluous commotion. He had taken his seat early in 1A, the most sought-after position on the Boeing 777. A merger awaited finalization in New York, a transaction concerning the takeover of a logistics network, poised to transform the shipping sector. He required repose, not conflict. He opened his laptop, its display mirroring his weary yet keen eyes. At 45, he possessed a subdued self-assurance typically associated with inherited wealth, though Donovan's fortune was entirely self-generated. "Excuse me," a nasal voice interjected, imbued with an air of privilege that immediately irritated Donovan. He did not immediately lift his gaze, finishing one final sentence prior to shutting his laptop's lid. When he eventually raised his head, he discovered a man standing in the aisle, towering above him. The individual appeared youthful, possibly in his late 20s, clad in an ostentatious designer tracksuit, indicative of recent wealth but lacking refinement. He clutched a boarding pass in one hand and a partially consumed mimosa in the other. "This was Preston Montgomery. That's my seat, pal," Preston declared, his voice carrying sufficiently for everyone in the first-class cabin to overhear. Donovan blinked, maintaining an inscrutable expression. "I think you've made an error. This is seat 1A. My ticket verifies this," Preston chuckled, producing a harsh, abrupt sound. He glanced at the bored, model-like blonde woman behind him, then returned his gaze to Donovan. "Listen, I'm not sure how he managed to get up here or who you paid off at the gate, but I invariably occupy 1A. I'm a Platinum Elite member. My father has strong ties to the airline's board, so get up. Return to economy class, which is more your speed." Donovan's jaw clenched, yet he stayed in his seat. "I purchased this seat at its full cost, Mr. Montgomery, Preston Montgomery, and your payment amount is irrelevant to me. This seat is mine." Donovan redirected his attention to his laptop. "Then I suggest you address the matter with the crew. I will not be relocating." Preston's complexion turned a furious crimson. He gestured sharply, beckoning a flight attendant who had been observing the exchange with a strained grin. Lydia, the flight's chief purser, a woman in her 50s who exuded command, quickly approached. From the instant Donovan stepped aboard, Lydia had assessed him, a black hoodie, now off to display a suit, a reserved manner, no accompanying party. To her, he represented either an unexpected upgrade, a stroke of luck, or a staff member traveling on a corporate ticket. Conversely, Preston Montgomery was a recognized individual, a nuisance certainly, yet a prosperous one. "Is something amiss, Mr. Montgomery?" Lydia inquired, her tone laced with insincere cordiality. "This gentleman occupies my seat," Preston declared, wildly indicating Donovan. "I insist he leave immediately. My back is aching, and I require the additional legroom provided by the bulkhead." Lydia shifted her attention to Donovan, her feigned pleasantness dissipated, supplanted by a frigid, official gaze. "Sir, I will need to examine your boarding pass once more." Donovan exhaled. Reaching into his pocket to retrieve the document, he presented it to her silently. Lydia scrutinized it, her eyes tightening. It was indeed valid, for seat 1A, and fully compensated. This was a fully flexible, full-fare ticket, representing the highest booking class offered. However, she glanced at Preston, who was restlessly tapping his foot, then back at Donovan. She rapidly weighed her options. Preston's father was, in fact, a small-scale investor. Furthermore, Preston consistently created disturbances on flights whenever his demands weren't met. In Lydia's prejudiced judgment, the airline's directive was to satisfy its high-value clientele. The composed black gentleman in the suit was deemed dispensable. The boisterous individual in the tracksuit was not. "Sir," Lydia stated, returning the pass to Donovan while still gripping its edge, "it appears there's a system error involving a duplicate booking. Mr. Montgomery possesses priority standing. I must request that you relocate." "Relocate to where?" Donovan inquired, his tone unwavering. "We have an unoccupied seat in Economy Plus, specifically row 22. It offers sufficient legroom." Several passengers gasped. Requesting a confirmed first-class traveler to shift to row 22 was perceived as an extreme affront. Donovan gazed at Lydia, truly observing her, seeking any vestige of professional conduct. He discovered none. "Allow me to confirm my understanding. You expect me to relinquish the seat for which I paid $12,000 to accommodate an individual who arrived tardily, solely due to his privileged status. And you intend to downgrade me to row 22 with no recompense? We can provide a $50 voucher for your subsequent flight," Lydia stated curtly. "Kindly collect your personal items now. Our departure is being held up." "No," Donovan declared. A hush fell over the cabin. Preston's eyes widened in surprise. "Pardon me?" "I stated no," Donovan reiterated, reclining and crossing his legs. "I possess a legitimate contract of carriage. I am presently seated. I am not creating any disruption. I will not be relocating." Lydia's expression solidified into a furious mask. She was unaccustomed to hearing no. "Failure to follow crew directives, sir, constitutes a federal offense. I am authorized to have you disembarked." "You should contact the captain then," Donovan stated, reaching for his device. "Because I will only vacate this seat if you physically remove me. And I assure you, Lydia, should you lay a hand on me, you will lament it for the remainder of your days." Lydia's posture became rigid. She bent closer, speaking in a harsh whisper meant only for him. "Hear me out. Individuals such as yourself believe they can simply purchase entry into areas where they are unwelcome. You are disturbing the tranquility of our genuine VIP guests. Now, rise, or I will summon security." "Individuals like myself?" Donovan inquired, a perilous sparkle entering his gaze. "And precisely who are individuals like myself?" "Agitators," Lydia retorted sharply. She pivoted abruptly and proceeded towards the flight deck. Preston grinned, bending towards Donovan. "It's over for you, friend. You ought to have simply returned to the economy section when the opportunity rose. You're headed to prison now." Donovan offered no reply. He accessed his mobile device and launched a protected communication application. He composed a brief message to a contact labeled merely the Wolf. "Prepare the takeover documents for Vista Air. I may be seeking a new acquisition." The message was dispatched precisely as the flight deck door swung open. Lydia reappeared, though not by herself. Following her were Captain Miller, a fatigued-looking man, and a pair of robust airport authority officers who had just entered the aircraft via the jet bridge. "There he is," Lydia indicated with her finger. Shaking with indignant fury, he's defiant, disregarding commands and menacing the staff. The lead officer, a man sporting a buzz cut and a nameplate identifying him as Officer Grant, advanced. He posed no inquiries. He sought no account from Donovan's perspective. He observed an African-American man in formal attire, declining to comply with a Caucasian flight attendant, and he reached his conclusion. "Sir, you must retrieve your luggage and accompany us," Grant commanded. "I have committed no transgression," Donovan replied, his hands plainly visible in his lap to demonstrate he posed no danger. "I possess a valid ticket. This individual is showing prejudice against me to benefit another traveler." "Your ticket is irrelevant to me," Grant stated, extending his hand towards his restraints. "The captain desires your removal from this aircraft. Consequently, you are trespassing. Rise." "I am cautioning you," Donovan uttered, his tone deepening significantly. I serve as the Chief Executive Officer of Coal Global. I have a crucial meeting in New York that bears implications for the nation's economy. Should you eject me, the repercussions will be catastrophic. Right, and I'm the monarch of England. Preston scoffed from his position in the passageway. Remove him from this place. Officer Grant's composure vanished. He surged ahead, seizing Donovan by the lapels of his expensive $3,000 suit. Hey, an individual in the second row exclaimed. He hasn't done anything wrong. He purchased that seat. Keep out of this, the second officer shouted, brandishing a taser at the other passengers. Everyone, put your phones down. No recording allowed. However, it was already too late. A significant portion of the cabin was already filming. Grant pulled Donovan forcefully, but Donovan put up a struggle, instinctively bracing his legs. A ripping sound of fabric resounded through the air. Donovan's jacket ripped apart. That constitutes assault, Donovan declared, gasping but defiant. Stop resisting, Grant bellowed, securing a chokehold around Donovan's neck with his arm. He forcibly removed him from the seat. Donovan's laptop fell noisily to the ground, and his glasses were dislodged and crooked. He was dragged. Indeed, he was physically pulled. Donovan Cole, a figure who had shared meals with presidents and offered counsel to prime ministers, was pulled along the confined passageway of the first-class cabin. His shoes rasped across the carpeting. Preston Montgomery chortled as Donovan was hauled by him, deliberately striking Donovan's briefcase while the second officer carried it. Lydia positioned herself at the fore of the cabin, with her arms folded and a triumphant, self-satisfied expression as the officers struggled Donovan beyond her toward the open cabin door. Donovan met her gaze directly. He uttered no cry. He spoke no profanity. Instead, he etched her features into his memory. "Enjoy your flight, Lydia," Donovan hoarsely uttered, his voice constricted by the chokehold. "This will be your final journey." He was forcibly propelled onto the jet bridge. The aircraft's weighty steel door clanged shut behind him. Inside the plane, Preston made himself comfortable in seat 1A, extending his legs with a contented sigh. At last, he declared. He was now signaling Lydia champagne. Lydia offered a smile, adjusting her skirt. Immediately, "Mr. Montgomery, we appreciate your patience." The engines ignited with a powerful rumble. Vista Air Flight 404 commenced its movement toward the runway. The passengers were visibly rattled, exchanging hushed words amongst themselves and posting footage to Twitter and TikTok. However, on the jet bridge, Donovan Cole rose to his feet. He dusted off his trousers. He inspected his mobile device. Its display was fractured, yet it remained operational. He punched in a number. "This is Donovan." He spoke into the receiver. "Initiate Protocol 0. Acquire everything and immediately freeze their holdings." Hostilities had commenced, and Vista Air were completely unaware they had just provoked a formidable adversary. The detention room at LAX was a frigid, aseptic enclosure, colored a hue of gray seemingly intended to extinguish all optimism from anyone unlucky enough to be confined within its confines. The fluorescent lights emitted a bothersome hum, akin to a failing insect. Donovan Cole was seated on a metal bench, secured to the ground. With his wrists still restrained behind him, the torn sleeve of his navy suit dangled freely, revealing the white dress shirt beneath, now soiled with dirt from the jet bridge's surface. Across the plexiglass in the processing zone, Officer Grant typed slowly on a keyboard using only two fingers. He appeared content, periodically sipping from a styrofoam cup containing tepid coffee. For him, it was merely another Tuesday, another disruptive passenger, another intoxicated individual, another person incapable of obeying instructions. "You know," Grant remarked, his gaze still fixed downwards, "should you admit guilt to the minor offense, judges typically show leniency towards those with no prior record, perhaps a monetary penalty or some hours of community work. This spares us a lot of administrative tasks." Donovan fixed his gaze upon the concrete barrier. His respiration remained steady and measured. He was mentally picturing the intricate global market as a chessboard. He wasn't dwelling on the ache in his shoulders or the shame of being exhibited through Terminal 4. As if a prize catch, his thoughts were focused on strategic advantage. "I asked for my phone call, Officer Grant," Donovan stated, his tone utterly emotionless, as frigid as liquid nitrogen. Grant let out a small laugh. "Yes, yes, in a moment. The computer systems are operating sluggishly." A further 20 minutes passed, a purposeful postponement, before Grant eventually walked over and released the restraints. He pushed a somewhat sticky landline handset through the door's opening. "Be brief, only local calls permitted." Donovan did not input a local telephone number. He entered a series of digits that went via an encrypted server located in Switzerland. Prior to linking with a private office in Manhattan, Cole, the voice on the receiving end, responded immediately, without greeting or small talk, only preparedness. This individual was Arthur Pendergast, recognized within Wall Street's elite as the Wolf. He was someone who not only practiced legal principles, but also utilized them as a weapon. "I'm currently at the LAX substation," Donovan murmured, apprehended by airport authority, subjected to assault, and taken off Vista Air Flight 404. A silence fell on the call, succeeded by the thud of a substantial glass placed onto a mahogany surface. The physical harm was slight, yet the affront was profound. "The officer's name is Grant, badge number 4922, and the airline is Vista Air. A flight attendant named Lydia was also involved. A passenger by the name of Preston Montgomery initiated the incident." "I understand," Arthur replied, his vocal inflection changing, growing more incisive, akin to a sword being unsheathed. "I am commencing the established procedure. Refrain from speaking another syllable to them. Before I conclude this call, the world will already be in turmoil." Donovan ended the conversation. He resumed his seat. A mere 10 minutes subsequent, the police station's entrance flew open. It wasn't Arthur. He was located in New York. Instead, a formidable group of 6 attorneys from LA's priciest law firm, kept on standby by Cole Global for such crises, arrived. At their head was Jessica Pearson, a sharp legal mind in a cream pantsuit. Rather than walking, she strode purposefully. She forcefully placed a writ of habeas corpus on the sergeant's desk, causing a penholder to shake. "My client departs this place immediately," Jessica declared, her voice reverberating against the tiled surfaces. "Should you fail to unfasten those restraints within half a minute, I shall initiate a civil rights action that will financially ruin this whole station and lead to the revocation of every officer's badge present." Officer Grant rose, huffing indignantly. "Hold on a second, ma'am." He resisted apprehension. He was attacked. Jessica interrupted him, turning sharply to confront him. She raised a tablet device. A video played on its display. This was the footage captured on the aircraft. A traveler seated in the second row had posted it on Twitter. The accompanying text stated, "Boycott Vistair. They assaulted a calm individual simply to provide his seat to an entitled rich kid." The footage was incriminating. It distinctly depicted Donovan seated calmly, Preston Montgomery provoking him, Lydia's disdainful expression, and crucially, Officer Grant applying a chokehold to a peaceful, non-aggressive man and hauling him away like a heavy object. The number of views was rapidly increasing. 500,000, then 1 million, then 2.5 million. "This is the top global trend." Jessica whispered intensely. "Jessica, CNN is already deploying a camera team outside. The governor is waiting on the phone for the police chief. You have committed an error of monumental scale, Officer Grant." Grant's complexion blanched. He glanced at the display, then at Donovan, who observed him through the partition with a predator's calm. The sergeant, a portly individual who had been consuming a donut in the rear, hurried forth. Brushing sugar from his lips, he appeared petrified. "Release him, Grant. Release him immediately." Grant clumsily handled the keys. He unlatched the cell entrance. Donovan rose, adjusting his ripped coat. He did not chafe his wrists. Instead, he exited, scrutinizing Grant from head to toe. "I warned you," Donovan uttered quietly. Catastrophic. As Donovan exited the precinct, accompanied by his legal counsel, the paparazzi's camera flashes illuminated the afternoon. Journalists yelled inquiries. "Mr. Cole, Mr. Cole, do you intend to file a lawsuit? Is it accurate that you are acquiring the airline? Mr. Cole, please face this direction." Donovan paused by the roadside where a dark luxury car awaited. He faced the lenses. He did not grin. Vista Air opted for aggression today, Donovan stated. His words picked up by numerous microphones. They prioritized privilege above an agreement. This evening, they shall comprehend the weight of repercussions. He entered the vehicle. Within, Arthur appeared on the integrated video display. It is accomplished, Arthur stated. I have reached out to the fuel providers. Donovan assented, serving himself a carbonated water. Excellent. We'll observe how far Flight 404 travels without an available landing spot. At an altitude of 30,000 feet over the Midwest, the mood within Vista Air Flight 404's first-class compartment was, at best, uncomfortable. Preston Montgomery remained unaware. He had consumed an additional 3 mimosas and was presently asleep in seat 1A, his mouth agape, saliva collecting on the costly linen cushion. However, the remaining travelers were not slumbering. They were murmuring. Each instance Lydia proceeded along the aisle to replenish a beverage or remove a tray. The occupants grew quiet, gazing at her with undisguised animosity. Everyone had witnessed the events. They had all viewed the video while still on the ground. Just before the internet connection failed. Oddly, the onboard Wi-Fi had ceased functioning approximately 20 minutes prior. Lydia struggled to keep her calm. She reassured herself that her actions were correct. Her duty was to prioritize a platinum-tier customer. The individual she removed was inconsequential, merely an uncooperative traveler. Nevertheless, her hands trembled while pouring coffee. Abruptly, the intercom chimed, Lydia. Report to the flight deck. Instantly, the captain's tone seemed tense and stressed. Lydia straightened her attire and proceeded forward. She input the access code and stepped into the cockpit. Captain Miller and his co-pilot, a young man named Dave, were encircled by flashing red indicators. Miller was perspiring. What's wrong? Captain, would you like some coffee? Lydia inquired, attempting to sound upbeat. Be quiet, Lydia, Miller retorted sharply. He tore off his headphones and flung them onto the control panel. What exactly did you do in the back? Who on earth was that man? Lydia blinked, startled. The traveler. He was insignificant, merely a troublesome individual. Miller let out a laugh, a frantic, frightening noise. That nobody was Donovan Cole. Lydia furrowed her brow. I'm unfamiliar with that name. He's the proprietor of Cole Global. Miller yelled, gesturing towards the navigation display. He possesses the logistics firm that provides jet fuel to 80% of North American airports. He's a board member of the banking group that guarantees our insurance policies. I wasn't aware, Lydia faltered. You'd better grasp it quickly, Miller stated, wiping his brow. Because we've just received a communication from air traffic control. New York JFK has refused our permission to land. What? That's not permissible. They certainly did. They invoked security issues pertaining to corporate bankruptcy. And it's not solely JFK. Newark turned us away. LaGuardia rejected us, and even Philadelphia. So, what's our destination? We're not heading anywhere, the co-pilot murmured, his complexion ashen. Examine the ACARS display. Lydia bent towards the electronic message panel on the instrument cluster. It displayed scrolling text, notice to airmen. Vista Air's operational license has been suspended awaiting a federal inquiry. All Vista Air aircraft are commanded to land at once. Fuel agreements have been canceled by the provider, Cole Energy. We must make a landing, Miller stated, his tone empty. But we're unable to land at a primary airport since they won't grant us a gate. They are treating us as if we carry a contagion. What course of action should we take? Lydia exclaimed, as fear ultimately took hold. We're rerouting to a freight airstrip in Ohio. It's reportedly a Cole Global Logistics Center. It's the sole airstrip nationwide that will permit our landing at this moment. A freight runway? Indeed. Miller glared at her with unadulterated malice. You removed the master of the game from play. Lydia, now he dictates the movement of the pieces. We are quite literally heading into extreme danger. Concurrently, at Vista Air's main corporate office in Dallas, the situation was catastrophic. Garrison Ford, Vista Air's chief executive officer, stood centrally in the boardroom, observing his firm's stock prices on the enormous wall-mounted display. It was a financial massacre. Vistov's $40 to $100, down 15%. Vistov's $35, $50, down 28%. Vistov's $2,100, down 50% in under 2 hours. The company's valuation had halved, telephones rang incessantly, and the public relations team was weeping in the corridor. "Get Cole on the line," Garrison roared, striking the table with his fist. "Offer him anything, complimentary flights for life, a public declaration of regret, a position on the board." Victoria Banks, the chief legal officer, shook her head gravely. She was reviewing an email on her laptop. "It's too late, Garrison." "It's never too late. We're a billion-dollar airline." "Not anymore," Victoria stated softly. "I've just received notification from the bank. Our credit facility for fuel procurement has been suspended. It appears our liquidity clause was activated by the sudden decline in stock value." "Who initiated it?" "The primary financial backer," Victoria inquired, looking up with apprehension in her eyes. "Pendergast and Associates, acting on behalf of Cole Global." Garrison slumped back into his chair. "He's suffocating us. He is literally choking our operations." "It worsens," Victoria continued, "because our fuel credit is frozen. Our insurance coverage is null and void. This implies every single aircraft currently airborne is flying without insurance. The FAA has just issued a grounding directive. Our entire fleet, all 400 jets, are grounded effective immediately." Garrison gazed blankly at the ceiling. He felt as though he couldn't breathe, all over a single seat. "He's doing this because of one seat." "No," Victoria corrected him. "He's undertaking this because we subjected him to humiliation. And individuals like Donovan Cole don't become enraged, Garrison. They seek vengeance." On the screen, CNN interrupted with breaking news. The headline proclaimed, "Shocking footage. Billionaire CEO forcibly removed from flight. Vista Air shares plummet to unprecedented lows." Garrison watched as the anchor interviewed an aviation specialist. "This is unprecedented," the expert remarked. "Donovan Cole is more than just a businessman. He's an industrial magnate. By assailing him, Vista Air fundamentally attacked the very framework of the market itself. I anticipate Chapter 11 bankruptcy by morning." Garrison buried his face in his hands. Aboard Flight 404, the airplane sharply tilted to the port side. The steady drone of the power plants altered in tone as they initiated a swift downward trajectory. Preston Montgomery awoke with a sudden gasp. He shouted, "Hey, spill my drink." "Why don't you?" Then Lydia. "Why are we changing direction?" Emerging from the cockpit, Lydia appeared spectral. She then seized the public address microphone. Her hands trembled severely, causing her to drop it once before retrieving it. "Ladies and gentlemen," her voice wavered through the speakers. This is your senior flight attendant speaking. Our flight has been rerouted." "Rerouted to where?" Preston shouted. "I have a dinner booking in Manhattan." "We're touching down at a private airstrip in Ohio," Lydia announced, tears flowing down her cheeks. "Kindly secure your seatbelts. The landing will be turbulent." The aircraft dropped through the cloud cover beneath them. Rather than New York City's glittering lights, a wide, barren expanse of concrete encircled by cornfields came into view. The location was a cargo terminal, stark and chilly, along the airstrip. Instead of airport transport or luggage trolleys, stood dozens of black SUVs. A person in a Navy suit observed the descending aircraft from in front of them, much like a general surveying a seized ship. Donovan Cole had preceded their arrival and was awaiting them. The approach to the Cole Global Logistics Hub proved to be anything but smooth. The airstrip, built for substantial cargo planes carrying steel and equipment, was both shorter and coarser than the commercial runways Vista Air pilots typically utilized. The Boeing 707 hit the concrete with a jarring impact, making the overhead compartments shake fiercely. Shrieks broke out from the economy section as the aircraft bounced once, then again, prior to the reverse thrusters bellowing like expiring dragons, struggling to decelerate the enormous machine. Within the cockpit, Captain Miller grappled with the control column, his knuckles pale. "Brakes, full braking power," he yelled at Officer Dave. The airstrip's conclusion rapidly neared, with only a thick, shadowy forest stretching beyond it. The aircraft trembled, moaning from the stress, eventually stopping merely 100 yards from the edge of the woods. The subsequent quiet was overwhelming. No seatbelt sign chimed off, no pleasant greeting was heard. Only the drone of the backup power and the frightened gasps of 200 individuals. "Why are we amidst a cornfield?" Preston Montgomery questioned, releasing his seatbelt and rising. Even though the indicator light remained illuminated, he gazed through the window. "Where's the terminal? Where's the jet bridge?" Lydia, pallid and shaking, seized the intercom. Please stay in your seats." However, the travelers were already peering through the windows. "Oh my goodness," a woman in the fourth row murmured. "Observe." 20 black SUVs encircled the aircraft, parked silently on the tarmac, resembling a wolf pack anticipating injured prey. With their headlights extinguished, they appeared as mere silhouettes against Ohio's dim twilight. A lone individual stood before the foremost vehicle, a portable stairway, painted industrial yellow, bearing the Cole Global logo stenciled on its flank. It advanced towards the front cabin entrance, not managed by airport personnel in bright vests. It was piloted by a man wearing a tactical outfit. A substantial thud occurred as the stairway joined the aircraft's body. Captain Miller unlatched the cockpit door, his complexion utterly drained. Lydia opened the door. "Captain," she murmured, "who exactly are those individuals?" "Simply unlock the entrance. We're left with no alternative. They've secured the area," Miller stated, his tone resigned. Lydia's hands trembled so severely that she mishandled the catch twice prior to releasing the bolt and turning the weighty grip. The entrance parted, allowing a blast of cold Midwestern wind inside. Preston shoved past her. "At last, I'm departing this disaster. I intend to sue this carrier for unlawful detainment." He strode forcefully onto the metallic stairway platform. "Hey, you below," he shouted towards the individual on the runway. "Retrieve my luggage. I require transportation to the city without delay." The person remained motionless. Preston proceeded down the steps, his costly loafers clanking against the metal. However, upon reaching the base, he halted abruptly. Two individuals in dark business attire, sporting earpieces and exhibiting the unmistakable, formidable stance of former military private security personnel, obstructed his route. They remained silent. They simply obstructed his passage. "Are you aware of my identity?" Preston retorted with disdain. "I am Preston Montgomery. My father is. Your father is presently attempting to divest his holdings before the SEC imposes a freeze." A composed voice interjected. Preston became motionless. He gazed beyond the security personnel. Donovan Cole advanced into the illuminated area created by the aircraft's emergency lights. He had transformed. The tattered suit was absent. He now sported an unblemished charcoal wool overcoat atop a new turtleneck. He appeared flawless, beyond reach. "You," Preston exclaimed, "the fellow from seat 1A. Donovan Cole," Donovan clarified, advancing deliberately towards the steps. "And I bid you welcome to my airfield, Mr. Montgomery. I contend you are unlawfully present." "Unlawfully present?" Preston chuckled uneasily, scanning his surroundings for assistance. "This is a commercial flight." "No longer," Donovan stated, as of half an hour ago. Vista Air failed to pay its landing charges nationwide. This aircraft is now security. It is owned by the financial institution, and since I possess the bank, Donovan indicated the enormous jet behind him. "Depart my aircraft." "I have disembarked the aircraft," Preston faltered. "Incorrect," Donovan replied, his gaze moving towards the cabin entrance where Lydia was fearfully observing. "My preference is for all crew members to exit initially." Lydia experienced her legs giving way. She observed Donovan directing his gaze squarely at her. It was not an expression of rage, rather, it was the kind of stare a researcher bestows upon an insect prior to affixing it to a specimen board. "Personnel of Flight 404. A voice resonated through a loudspeaker from one of the utility vehicles. "Exit the aircraft without delay." Gradually, individually, the cabin crew and aviators descended the steps. They formed a line on the runway, trembling in the frigid breeze. Lydia was the final person to come down. She attempted to conceal herself behind Captain Miller, yet no refuge was available. Donovan proceeded along the row of personnel, his hands interlocked behind his back. He paused directly before Lydia. "Lydia," he uttered gently. She raised her gaze, with tears marring her substantial cosmetics. "Sir, Mr. Cole, I was merely adhering to established procedures." "Procedures?" Donovan echoed, savoring the term. "Let's discuss proper procedure. Established guidelines stipulate that a paying customer should not be attacked. Standard procedure requires treating individuals with respect, yet you disregarded those rules. Lydia, you acted out of bias." "I apologize," she wept. "Please, my retirement fund is at stake." "I'm just 2 years from retiring. You had a pension," Donovan clarified. Vista Air's retirement scheme had significant investments in volatile derivatives. Following this afternoon's market collapse, the fund was sold off to meet margin requirements. Lydia's gaze widened. "What? You're penniless, Lydia," Donovan stated plainly, "and jobless. Furthermore, you're probably looking at federal charges for complicity in an assault." Lydia sank to her knees on the pavement, weeping without restraint. Preston, grasping the true nature of their predicament, attempted to flee. He dashed towards the opening between the utility vehicles. "Restrain him," Donovan commanded, without even glancing back. A pair of guards advanced with incredible swiftness. They brought Preston down, pressing his face onto the chilly asphalt. "Let go of me." Preston shrieked. "This is unlawful. I'm contacting the authorities. The police are en route," Donovan stated, turning to confront the struggling man. "However, they're not coming for me, Mr. Montgomery, while you indulged in champagne. My team was scrutinizing your father's associations. It appears the electronic funds transfer you utilized for your ticket purchase was flagged as fraudulent, and the cocaine discovered in your checked baggage constitutes a felony offense." Preston became unresponsive. "You inspected my baggage?" "I am the proprietor of this logistics center," Donovan smirked chillingly. "We screen all incoming items for security purposes." At that moment, the distinct thrumming of a helicopter slicing through the atmosphere captured everyone's focus. It was an elegant corporate aircraft. The helicopter, adorned with the Vista Air emblem, quickly lowered, stirring up dirt and debris. "Ah," Donovan glanced at his timepiece. "Our last visitor is here." The aircraft landed approximately 50 yards distant, even before its rotors ceased rotation. The hatch swung open, and a man in a rumpled suit disembarked. It was Garrison Ford, Vista Air's chief executive officer. He appeared as though he had aged a decade within a mere 10-hour span. With a loosened tie, wine-tussled hair, and a face contorted in pure terror, he sprinted, gasping for air, towards the assembly on the runway. "Mr. Cole, Mr. Cole," Garrison yelled, out of breath, as he slid to a stop before Donovan. He paid no mind to his team, nor to Preston, who lay prone in the soil. His gaze was fixed solely on the individual who controlled his destiny, Garrison. Donovan acknowledged with a nod. "You appear exhausted." "Please," Garrison gasped, extending his hands in supplication. "This must cease. Your message has been delivered. Our stock has plummeted by 70%. The board demands my dismissal. I beg you, reactivate the fuel supply. Allow us to depart." Donovan observed the frantic man. "You wish to fly?" "Yes. Countless travelers are stranded. The situation is an absolute catastrophe." "This isn't merely a disaster, Garrison. It's an accountability," Donovan stated, indicating the aircraft. "Are you aware of my presence on this particular flight today?" Garrison, perspiring, shook his head. "No, I'm not. I was en route to New York to finalize an agreement that would have rescued your company." Donovan observed the profound quiet that enveloped the assembly. Even Lydia ceased her weeping. Garrison's mouth fell open in disbelief. "What did you say?" Garrison murmured, "Vista Air has been losing substantial funds for 9 months." Donovan elucidated, his tone resembling a business school professor's. "Your operating expenses are excessive, and your client contentment ranks lowest in the sector. My intention was to purchase a 40% share. I plan to infuse $2 billion in capital. I intended to rescue your company." Garrison appeared on the verge of illness. You were the financier, the benevolent backer." "Indeed, I was," Donovan confirmed, "until your employees forcibly removed me from my seat as if I were a stray animal." Garrison whirled around, his complexion darkening to a furious purple. He then directed his gaze at Lydia. His eyes then found Captain Miller. "You absolute fools. You utter imbeciles. Are you even aware of the consequences of your actions? You've ruined us. You've annihilated everything." He lunged towards Lydia, but a guard from Donovan intervened, restraining the CEO. "Calm yourself, Garrison," Donovan stated pointedly. "They are simply manifestations of the underlying problem. You embody the culture. You established an organization that prioritizes prestige above human welfare. You enabled individuals such as her," he indicated Lydia, "to regard people like me as expendable. This represents your shortcoming." "I can rectify this," Garrison implored. "I will dismiss every one of them. I will release a public statement of regret. I will provide you with the corporate aircraft. I have no desire for your private plane," Donovan stated with disdain. "I possess 3 of them." A dark-colored executive car advanced through the queue of sport utility vehicles. The rear entrance swung open, and Arthur Pendergast, known as the Wolf, emerged. He clutched a substantial leather portfolio. He approached Donovan and presented him with the papers. "Is everything satisfactory?" Donovan inquired. "Bearing signatures and officially attested," Arthur affirmed. "The aggressive acquisition has concluded." The executive committee cast their votes in an urgent meeting a mere 10 minutes prior. Garrison was removed from his position. Garrison became motionless. How such an action is impermissible. Arthur faced Garrison, a predatory grin spreading across his features. "Indeed, they can, when the principal stakeholder insists upon it. Furthermore, by 4 p.m. this afternoon, Cole Global acquired 51% of the available voting shares at the distressed valuation." Donovan grasped the folder and lightly struck it against his open hand. "Vista Air is now my property, Garrison. Every aspect, the aircraft, the flight paths, the liabilities, and the personnel." Donovan approached Garrison, inclining his body. "My initial action as the proprietor is to acknowledge your relinquishment of duties, taking effect without delay." "That's impossible," Garrison murmured. "This constitutes my entire existence." "Depart from my aerodrome," Donovan commanded. Garrison remained motionless, utterly defeated. He gazed at the aircraft he once possessed, the workforce he formerly directed, and understood he was now more insignificant than the insects on the earth. He pivoted and deliberately proceeded back towards the rotorcraft, a monarch divested of his regalia. Donovan redirected his attention to the assembly. He observed Lydia, who regarded him with a blend of dread and admiration. "What about me, Donovan?" she inquired. "Am I dismissed?" "Dismissed?" Her tone was almost inaudible. Donovan gave a negative shake of his head. "No, that would be overly simple. Should I terminate your employment, you would return home, claim jobless benefits, and recount a tale of woe regarding your alleged victimization." He gestured to Arthur. "We are reorganizing the corporation. Vista Air is undergoing a rebranding. Our aim is to transform into the economy airline of the sector. Luxury seating is abolished, as are privileged passengers." He met Lydia's gaze directly. "I am allocating you to the fresh itinerary, the overnight service connecting North Dakota and Fairbanks, Alaska, only economy seating. You will serve as the entry-level flight attendant. You will sanitize the restrooms. You will manage intoxicated travelers. And you will perform these duties for the lowest permissible salary. Alaska, yet my residence is in Los Angeles. In that case, I recommend relocating." Donovan uttered, utterly devoid of warmth. "Alternatively, resign." "However, should you resign, I will ensure that every air carrier from this location to Tokyo is fully aware of the precise reason for your departure." Donovan faced Preston, who remained restrained on the ground. "Mr. Montgomery," Donovan stated, "the authorities have arrived." Distant sirens howled. Flashing blue and red lights illuminated the cornfields. "Have a good time in jail," Donovan remarked. "I understand the seating is quite unpleasant." Donovan then faced away from them. "Arthur, ensure the passengers disembark. Organize premium coaches to transport them to their respective locations. Provide each and every one of them a check for $10,000. This is for their inconvenience, excluding the individual in seat 1A and yourself, sir." Arthur inquired as Donovan proceeded towards his luxury car. "I'm heading to New York. There's a corporate merger I need to finalize." A quarter of a year had elapsed since the Ohio tarmac event, yet its repercussions continued to shatter lives. The Los Angeles courthouse was completely full. This was more than a mere legal process. It represented the public downfall of a reputation. Preston Montgomery occupied the defendant's seat. The haughtiness that characterized him in seat 1A had vanished, supplanted by a nervous, perspiring dread. He was dressed in an inexpensive suit, his finances were inaccessible, and his expensive attorneys had departed once his payments failed. He was assigned a public attorney, a weary individual named Mr. Henderson, who appeared to wish he were elsewhere. Across the courtroom aisle sat Arthur Pendergast. He wasn't handling the criminal prosecution that fell to the district attorney, but he was present, acting on behalf of Donovan Cole in the civil action for compensation, psychological suffering, and slander. And Arthur Pendergast was never defeated. The presiding judge, the esteemed Walter Halloway, looked over the top of his eyeglasses. "Mr. Montgomery, you face charges of obstructing a flight crew, battery, holding an illicit substance, and electronic deception. How do you respond?" Preston rose, his knees trembling. "Not guilty, Your Honor. It was a misinterpretation. I was incited." Arthur Pendergast rose deliberately. He neither raised his voice nor lodged an objection. He merely set a USB drive on the judge's desk. "Your Honor," Arthur began. With a voice as soft as silk, he stated, while the defense asserts provocation, "We have presented as evidence the cockpit voice recorder audio, retrieved from the Vista airplane prior to its rebranding. It records Mr. Montgomery not only confessing to the attack, but also boasting about his father's capacity to corrupt airport law enforcement." Preston's gaze quickly shifted to the spectator area where his father, Archibald Montgomery, was seated. Archibald's face lost all color. He suddenly rose. I must depart." "Be seated, Mr. Montgomery," Judge Holloway commanded sharply. "The court officer will lock the entrances. Should proof of corruption concerning the airport administration emerge, the court will regard you as a subject of inquiry." Archibald sank back into his seat, vanquished. The predator had ensnared the whole group. The legal proceedings were rapid and yielded harsh outcomes. Officer Grant, the individual who had forcibly removed Donovan, had already accepted a plea agreement. He was terminated from his job, deprived of his retirement benefits, and given an 18-month sentence in a local correctional facility for excessive force and infringements on civil liberties. His sworn statement against Preston served as the conclusive blow. Upon the announcement of the verdict, guilty on all charges, Preston did not yell. He simply cried. The punishment was harsh, half a decade in a federal correctional facility, succeeded by compulsory therapy and compensatory payments to those aboard Flight 404. However, the true surprise occurred following the judgment. While Preston was being handcuffed, Arthur drew near him. "Just one more matter, Mr. Montgomery." Preston gazed upward, his eyes bloodshot. "What? You've seized everything. What more could you possibly desire, Mr. Cole wished for you to possess this," Arthur stated, extending a small, plastic-coated card to him. Preston narrowed his eyes at it. It turned out to be a membership pass for the recently launched airline, Aegis Air. "This is a permanent prohibition," Arthur murmured, "and it extends to all significant airlines within the global alliance. You'll never board an aircraft again. From now on, Preston, you'll travel by bus for the remainder of your days, concurrently, 4,000 miles distant." A fierce wind swept over the icy runway at Fairbanks International Airport in Alaska. The mercury registered 20 degrees below freezing. Lydia repositioned her scarf, attempting to protect her face from the piercing chill. She stood at the base of a portable stairway, awaiting passengers to exit a corroded, propeller-powered cargo aircraft that additionally transported economy passengers. This particular journey was the Polar Express route, precisely the retribution Donovan had vowed. "Hey, you there!" a robust oil rig employee yelled from the staircase's summit. "My luggage is jammed. Come up here and assist me." Lydia exhaled, her breath crystallizing into an icy mist. "Sir, I am prohibited from departing the runway during passenger exit." It's a safety regulation. I couldn't care less about your regulations, the man roared, flinging a substantial duffel bag down the steps. The bag ricocheted and struck Lydia's shin. She shrieked in agony, grasping her leg. Her tears solidified on her face. Her mind drifted to seat 1A, the heated cloths, the sparkling wine, and the authority she once held over others. She recalled Donovan Cole's expression when she informed him he was unwelcome. She gazed skyward at the bleak, relentless heavens. I apologize, I truly apologize, she murmured into the void. However, the wind merely echoed her sentiment with its roar. Her duty had not concluded. She still needed to attend to 3 more flights before returning to her small, breezy flat. This had become her existence. Half a year subsequently, at JFK International Airport, New York, the corporate identity appeared refined, contemporary, and subtle. Vista Air's former flashy hues had vanished, superseded by a profound midnight blue and silver palette. The display above the registration desk indicated Aegis Air. Its accompanying motto was straightforward: respect with every journey. Donovan Cole proceeded through the concourse. This time, he wasn't being forcibly removed. Instead, he moved with the assured gait of an individual who had molded circumstances to align with his aspiration. He was accompanied on either side by Arthur Pendergast and Aegis Air's recently appointed CEO, Sarah Jenkins, a woman who began her career as a baggage handler 2 decades prior and ascended through the ranks. Donovan advocated for advancing merit, not affiliations. The figures appear promising, Mr. Cole, Sarah stated, presenting him with a tablet device. Client contentment has surged by 200%. We stand as the sole airline nationwide to achieve a flawless incident record for the previous quarter. Furthermore, the Economy Plus redesign, the provision of ample legroom for all, has positioned us as the most favored airline. For business travelers, good, Donovan stated. Profit is a consequence of principle, Sarah. Never overlook that. Forget. They arrived at the boarding area. This was the maiden voyage of the new flagship Boeing 787 Dreamliner, destined for London. Are you embarking, sir? The gate attendant inquired, offering a sincere smile. Yes, Donovan replied. He proceeded along the jet bridge. The cabin's atmosphere carried scents of crisp lemon and fine leather. No lingering odor of stale coffee was present. The illumination was gentle. He advanced to the foremost seat, 1A. It was a brand new chair, crafted from Italian leather, fully reclinable and equipped with an effective privacy screen. Yet, prior to taking his seat, he noticed an item on the headrest. It was a modest brass plate. Subtly integrated into the leather, it bore the inscription, the Cole Standard. No individual is overlooked. A smile touched Donovan's lips as he settled into his seat, securing his belt. A flight attendant drew near, but it wasn't Lydia. Instead, it was David, a young man who had served as a junior steward on the ill-fated Ohio flight. Having given an honest account of Lydia's conduct, he had since received a promotion. Champagne. Mr. Cole, David inquired. No, thank you, David, Donovan replied, opening his laptop. Just water, please, I need to get some work done. While the aircraft moved along the tarmac towards the runway, Donovan gazed through the window, observing a rival plane making its descent. He observed the baggage carts in motion, witnessing the complex ballet of the worldwide economy. He had endured public disgrace, being shamed and cast aside. His attire had been ruined and his reputation ridiculed, yet through their actions, they had inadvertently granted him immense power. He not only prevailed in a legal battle, but also purified the aviation industry. His mind drifted to Preston, traveling on a Greyhound coach somewhere in Nevada. He pictured Lydia, laboriously clearing ice from a car windshield in Alaska. He considered Garrison Ford, currently serving as an advisor for a struggling car rental firm. Retribution hadn't merely affected them, it had utterly crushed them, repeatedly and mercilessly. With a mighty roar from the engines, Donovan was pushed firmly against his seat by the force. The aircraft ascended, overcoming gravity, climbing past the clouds into the constant sunshine of the upper atmosphere. Donovan Cole shut his eyes, at last finding genuine relaxation. The period of unrest had concluded. What an incredible journey! From the indignity of being forcibly removed from the cabin to the ultimate display of dominance. By acquiring the whole airline, Donovan Cole demonstrated that appearances can be deceiving, particularly when that book represents a financial power capable of purchasing your entire existence. For Preston and Lydia, fate didn't merely arrive, it forcefully broke through their defenses. This narrative serves to illustrate that genuine strength operates quietly, while hubris invariably makes noise prior to its downfall. If you appreciated this tale of ultimate fairness and a billionaire's retribution, please hit the like button. Your support significantly aids the channel's expansion. Remember to subscribe and activate the notification bell to ensure you don't miss any future stories. Consider sharing this video with a friend who could use some gratification today. How would you have acted in Donovan's situation? Share your thoughts in the comments section. We appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.